There might be no way out of this Russia mess for Donald Trump Jr. Trump Jr. is
It's without a question, reads and smells like a witch hunt.
Special counsel Bob Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 U.S. election is racking up indictments. And Donald Trump Jr. reportedly told friends he's very worried that he could be in its crosshairs. Why? Because Jr. was the one to arrange the single most controversial meeting of his dad's presidential campaign. A sit-down at Trump Tower with a group of Russians promising that they had dirt on Hillary Clinton. As of January 2019, 2 people involved in that meeting have already been indicted, one on the Trump side and one on the Russia side. We'll get to that in a minute. Congresswoman Jackie Speier, who sits on the House Intelligence Committee, said Trump Jr. might be the first person they issue a subpoena to in the Russia investigation because she didn't think that he's telling the truth. Trump Jr. says he didn't break the law and that the Russians never delivered anything that he could use anyway. But legal experts say that it's pretty likely that he committed a number of federal crimes.
In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little differently.
Now, if Mueller indicts Trump Jr., it would be a huge deal. It would be remarkable for the son of a sitting president to be charged with a major crime. But more importantly, it would show that there was collusion between Russia and a senior official of the Trump campaign in order to flip the 2016 election. And there's even the possibility that Trump Jr.'s indictment would end up implicating the president himself. Here's how. Let's first go back to how the infamous Trump Tower meeting got set up in the first place. On June 3rd, 2016, when Trump Jr. received an email from British publicist Rob Goldstone. Goldstone represented a father-son pair of Russian real estate developers called the Agalarovs, who had done business with Trump Sr. in the past. Goldstone said that they had met with a Russian government lawyer who had something juicy for the Trump campaign. Quote, official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia. Goldstone also said that the stash was, quote, part of Russia and its government's support for Mr. Trump. Now, Trump Jr. didn't seem nervous about collaborating with the government of a major rival of the US or about violating federal campaign laws. In fact, he seemed elated. Don Trump Jr. replied, if it's what you say, I love it. A couple phone calls later, the meeting was set up. A few days later, on June 9th, Trump Jr. met with the Russians at Trump Tower in New York. He was accompanied by Paul Manafort, Trump's then campaign chair, and Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, who also had a senior role in the campaign. They met with a delegation of 5 Russians, the most important of whom was Natalia Veselnitskaya, a Russian lawyer with ties to the Kremlin. She has since been charged in a separate case about money laundering for trying to thwart federal investigators from looking into a Russian businessman and his investment firm. So we know who attended the meeting, but we don't know what actually went down during it. All we really have is the testimony of some of the people who were there, and they have an interest in hiding any shady or illicit things that happened during that chat. In fact, that's exactly what Trump Jr. initially did. When the New York Times uncovered the fact that the Trump Tower meeting had happened about a year later, Trump Jr. reacted by saying it was about a program for adopting Russian children. He made no mention about the whole getting dirt on Clinton thing. But only days later, just as the New York Times dug up more material on the real purpose of the meeting, did Trump Jr. finally come clean about why it had been set up in the first place. In other words, he only gave an honest account when his hand was forced. Since then, testimony and public statements from participants of the Trump Tower meeting have more or less stuck to one story, that none of this is as bad as it looks. They allege that the dirt on Hillary Clinton was barely discussed at all, and that the bulk of the meeting was about other policy issues like sanctions and that program for adopting Russian children. They also say that there was no follow-up regarding the materials on Clinton at a later point because they were so insignificant. So there are now 3 big questions for the Mueller probe surrounding this particular meeting. The first is everyone who attended the meeting telling the truth? The second, did anything illegal happen at that meeting? And third, how much did Trump Sr. know about all of this as it happened? It's unclear what kind of evidence Mueller might have for figuring out the truth, but we do know that he has one big weapon: Manafort. Earlier this year, Manafort, who has been charged with tons of financial crimes by Mueller, struck a plea deal with him. He was cooperating with the Mueller probe in exchange for a reduced set of charges. And he'd flipped, offering new information on the Trump Tower meeting that he wasn't willing to share before. But it's now being reported that Manafort has stopped playing ball with the Mueller investigation and breached his plea agreement by lying to them. It's also reported that Manafort's lawyer talked to President Trump's lawyer about Manafort's case, which also pissed off the Mueller investigators. It's possible that Manafort's change of heart might be tied to his hopes of receiving a pardon from the president. Manafort aside, many legal experts say that regardless of what new evidence might come to light, that there's reason to think that Trump Jr. broke the law. That's because, according to federal campaign finance law, foreign nationals cannot directly or indirectly make a contribution or a donation of money or other thing of value in relation to any U.S. election. Some lawyers say that damaging materials about a political opponent would count as a, quote, thing of value. And even if Trump Jr. says that the materials on Clinton that were offered during the meeting ended up being useless, there's still reason to think that he broke the law. That's because it's also illegal to accept or solicit such contributions from foreign nationals. In other words, the fact that Trump Jr. set up the meeting in the first place could be enough for Mueller to say that he violated the law. If there's enough to work with, Mueller could accuse Trump Jr. of participating in a conspiracy with Russia to interfere in the U.S. election.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
And on top of this, it's also possible that Trump Jr. lied to Congress and the FBI about whether he had told his dad about the Trump Tower meeting before it happened. If he did, that's a crime. So did Trump Sr. definitely know about the Trump Tower meeting? It's hard to say for sure right now. In an interview with the New York Times last year, Trump claimed he didn't. But he also said many things that suggested that he did in fact know about the meeting. He also has a very clear track record of lying about everything regarding this investigation, so it wouldn't be surprising. And there's also one more fishy thing. Remember when Trump Jr. initially gave that misleading statement about the Trump Tower meeting, how he said it was just about adoption and Russian orphans? Well, it turns out that President Trump actually dictated that misleading statement to his son. So if President Trump actually had nothing to do with the Trump Tower meeting, why would he be so involved with the cover-up? Any kind of Mueller indictment against Trump Jr. would be huge news. It would give strength to accusations that the Trump campaign sided with Russia against the Democrats and imperil the legitimacy of the Trump administration indefinitely. It would spur more investigations of the president himself, and that, in turn, could make impeachment proceedings by the Democrats that much more likely. Nobody knows yet exactly how the Mueller probe is going to turn out, but Trump Jr.'s got a lot of reasons to be worried that he might be the next indictment. Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode of The Russia Desk. So what do you think? Will Mueller indict Donald Trump Jr.? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to share this video if you liked it. Bye!